Gotta get a microphone.
Yep.
It's right to the share, and then it's the host, there's a notice that says video not getting to share.
Okay.
And I just scrolling over it and.
So, yes.
Saying yes.
I have a motion next year that we have BAC do that.
Advisor.
Yes. Well, you can still advise. Yeah.
Sure, I got it.
The heat's on, it'll take it a while. Woohoo. All right, I'll have to, well, actually, I've got to get the recording and audio back on. Yeah. Yeah.
Like the old days.
All right, Ken's reading.
I mean, we still have one more minute.
Ew. That clock's wrong.
How wrong is it?
Now I'm going to start recording now. To hell with it. Okay. Oh. No, I had paused it. Are we unmuted too? Where's the audio up here?
Your audio recording is down there. At the bottom.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there it is. Hurts my neck. It's saved for you. Go right ahead.
Video.
Yeah, let's turn the video on.
Bottom, I was wondering.
Yeah, it hurts my neck to do this. Okay.
There's budget's right here, Gary, if you'd like. Budget's right here if you'd like. Everybody else have one? The wife want one?
Remember, if you're going to speak out there, get a microphone. Got
All
three
right,
of
I
them.
think our clock's a little slow, but I've got 7 o'clock on my 7:01.
Something on my watch.
So I will open this budget hearing. Does anybody have any comments before we get started, or should we just go? Take that as a no, and we're gonna go. All right, so we'll start with the executive, the select board budget. it's up 2%. That's basically for 2% COLAs. Town administrator is the same for a 68,218.
Mhm.
Moderator is pretty much the same. No real change there other than the 2%. Town clerk is up a little bit in spots because we have 4 elections this year instead of just 1 like we did last year. Clerk. Clerk. Election administration again is up again because of 4 elections versus 1. Vital statistics is the same. Financial administration pretty much the same except for the 2% COLA increase. Data processing and systems, I believe, is up because software upgrades. Again, budget advisory committee stays the same. Tax collector is up 2% for COLA. Assessing and auditing pretty much stayed the same. Legal expenses, we kept the same this year. We're trying to run that down a little bit because we have a few things on that dropped off from years prior. Professional administration, this one seems to be up. Insurance, we got beat up pretty bad by our health insurance, which is the big one. They hit us with a $11,000 hit at the end of the year and plus another raise in their fees. Planning board's down a little bit. Zoning board is up a little bit. Like that's mostly postage and recording wages. Government buildings and land, pretty much we're up 5% there. Most of that is due to cost of electricity, propane, and diesel fuel, which we have a better system for next year, hopefully. We're working on that. Cemeteries, up a little bit. And I think we've raised the fees as well for plots and burials as well. So I think that should even out for next year. Insurances, up 20%. HMA dues, all of that's pretty much stayed the same. HMA dues has gone up. General government is actually down a little bit. And we also have the 2% COLA in there for town forester and others. Police department is up 5.1%, and we knew that was going to happen anyways. Basically, that was from planned raises for all the officers. Ambulance is up quite a bit. Again, that's kind of one of those things. It goes up, goes down. We don't know where it's going to be. Fire department. Yep.
The ambulance is up 30% essentially. Is that related to the new facilities in Peterborough, or is this just operational costs? What's
They say not. They say it's operational costs. and increase in call volume for
Okay.
Temple.
Yeah, Temple had a significant increase in call volume again.
Yeah, I mean, we used to be under 100 calls a year, and now we're all doing 150, 160-ish.
And I
So
think they
it's-
lost their free, or their, the easy one, which is the transport. And so they cut out transport.
Well,
So,
yes and no. They gave up transport. My understanding of it is they gave up transport because it took up a lot of time and they didn't have people available for the
yes.
towns that they serve. So it wasn't necessarily that they gave up the transport. They had to because they wanted to make sure that they served us. And they've been a top-notch operation. They're great. I would never consider going back to where we were before. Building inspections roughly the same. We can cover fire?
I skipped fire.
So fire department, of course, we have more calls. We're trying something new in the fire department as well to provide a little bit of stipend for the officers at the end of the year and for all the firefighters as well. And training went up 20% because training is up huge. Actually, this says rescue squad expenses went up 20%. That's just medical, Band-Aids, neck collars, stuff like that, that we have to have. We also have a new heart monitor as of the beginning of last year, which has been great because we can hook up 12 leads to people that we couldn't do before. We had to wait for the ambulance. So normally we'd have to wait for the ambulance to get there and then we would get that information. We would already have that information now when the ambulance gets there. So that's great. And they can just switch them right over to their monitors as well. Building inspections, the same. Town vehicles, equipment, fuels. Again, we have no change, but we all know that there's a big change there for the cost of fuels. Highway department, 2% COLA, 114% in electricity. And 14% in supplies. So not a big change. The overall 3.1%. Sanitation, which is the Wilton Recycle Center, again, up 8.6% over last year. Again, recycling too is not as lucrative as it used to be. Animal and pest control, 2.2 is the COLA, and that pretty much stays the same. Welfare services. Yep.
how did we miss the highway electric so drastically? What went on there? Did we buy an electric vehicle? I mean, there's something enormously out of kilter here last year.
Rob, you have
Line
any idea?
257?
Yeah, that is a,
Yeah, we basically bumped it up to account for the expenses from past year. We didn't dig, personally didn't dig into exactly why it went up so high. Kent, I don't know if you have a comment on why the bills were so high last year, but yeah, so we're just accounting for that, knowing that if it was that high, we're probably going to be that high again this year, especially with the cost of electricity going up so high.
Welfare services is up. Some of our donations that we make at the end of the year have asked for more monies than they have in the past years, so those are included in here as well. 42% for the home health and community services. 50% for St. Joseph's Community Services. These are all services that donate time and monies and rides and things for people in our community. Community Volunteer Transcorp for people that need rides, that's up 50%. And then we had a couple that dropped from prior years. So those won't be in this budget. Welfare services and support. Welfare itself went up 24% overall, 2% COLA. Welfare and vendor programs, 26%. Yep.
Gail,
Oh,
we
okay.
use that one, yeah.
Ken, would you back up just a little bit to the charity donations?
Yep.
Yes, Jim, I would like to ask you what you think about some of these. I know that you have spoken very highly in favor of the several of these in the past. Are we doing the right thing here? What? The,
Here, Gail, take another microphone. Keep them out there. You just pass them around when you need to.
With a lot of these charities, we use them as reference. People come in, need assistance and so forth. So we have a place to send them. But the Children's Advocacy Center is phenomenal. And what they basically do, if a child is suspected of being assaulted, they do the interview, they do the recording and everything. So you don't have to have the child go through another interview with the police, another one with the county attorney, so forth. They're fantastic.
so you would suggest that we stay with all of these?
Absolutely.
Okay, great, thank you.
I'd point out that if these charities don't ask, they don't get. So they need to ask us each year how much money they want.
Recreation is down a little bit. We went over welfare. Recreation is down a little bit. Library is up substantially in some places. And I guess I have to be careful as to what I say here. I don't want to step on any toes, but they have a 5.1% increase in library wages and 8.4 in library salaries, which is huge, but they did drop some numbers on some other places. Their telephone is down. Dues and subscriptions is up twice what it normally is.
One of those dues and subscriptions, either one of them.
I'll repeat, that's a one-time charge for, oh, she's got a microphone now.
One of those line items in the dues and subscriptions was we have to pay to join one time, and then that'll fall off next year.
Patriotic purposes, overall up 16.3, and I believe it's just the cost of flags and Memorial Day parade. Conservation Commission is pretty much the same. They're actually down 41%, which gives us, we have no debt services. And then we go into articles. So it's 1,687,431, which is overall up 7.8% from the year before. And then we can go into warrants if we would like to afterwards. Anybody have any other questions on the budget itself? Everybody okay with that? Any comments?
Regarding the insurance and how we got hit at the end of the year, I believe that was school care or one of those providers. Is the board looking at alternatives for that coverage?
There is one alternative that I didn't get anything back from. It appears that school care, even though they raised their prices a lot, is still about the best deal around. Peterborough, as far as I know, they were threatening to withdraw, but as far as I know, they did not.
Well, if I could say just one thing, I noticed that the police department has health trust, and theirs didn't go up at all. Jim Kingston, doesn't the school district use health trust? What is the one used by the school district?
Health Source.
What is it?
It was Health Source.
Health
Yeah,
store, so that's a different
Yes.
one.
that is a different one. We were worried about Health Source. Fortunately, they didn't go, there was an accounting change of some sort or a legislative change that
Mhm.
required these municipal insurers to have a significantly larger kind of cash on hand kind of thing. And, unfortunately, school care had to bump their rates significantly in order to cover that, where Health Source, in this instance, at least, had enough cash on hand and we were spared the big jump in insurance for the school this year.
Well, as I understand it, our policy goes through the end of June. There's still, I'm interested in this one that the police department has, Health Trust. And I think maybe the select board should spend a little bit more time looking into that one. Okay? Might be worth some money. Okay, thank you.
Gail, do you have a list of the warrant articles?
Yes. As you all can see,
This is not
at the
on
bottom here, there's actually a list of them right there. As you know,
Yeah.
the CIP committee, of which I'm chair,
Yeah, okay.
I don't have that on my sheet.
Yeah, I was going to do the CIP ones. Go ahead.
everybody has a copy of them? Yeah, okay.
The paper that you have on the far right columns in that Warren article, those are the numbers. If you can direct your attention to the screen, the actual names of the different articles are listed on the right side. So what you're printed off of is the working document, and we hadn't updated the formal articles yet into the sheet. So when Gail speaks, she's speaking to the ones that are in column N, and the names of them are in what I'm showing in column T.
Great, thank you. As you all know, you've been looking at the budget, which has a 1-year forward look. The CIP committee has a 10-year forward look, and we try to smooth out the big expenditures that we know are coming. First of all, we have to find out what those big expenditures are. We ask our big spenders, the highway department, the police department, the fire department, what are you going to need? And they tell us these numbers and we talk about them and so forth and try to work that out. Then we schedule these so as to cause the minimal amount of disruption to the town tax rate. So what I would like to do right now is just simply take a quick look through these articles. There are 7 of them. So you will know what the financial articles are that the town will be voting on at town meeting. First of all, Article 12, Town Echo Mitigation. I have a question here for all of you here. You're a very special group. Can everybody hear what's going on in here? If you can't hear, would you put your hand up? Is nobody going to put their hand up? Okay, because I don't think anybody has ever been asked, can you hear? There's scuttlebutt going around. Somebody will say to Bill or to Ken or to George, I can't hear a darn thing in there. How many people are involved? Now, this $12,000 is going to address echo mitigation. If you look at the panels on the side, there's 2 there and 2 over there Those will have a fabric covered panel put on them. And also there'll be a big one up there where the clock is. Those are supposed to absorb the excess noise and get rid of all the, there's only two of them, aren't there, Ken?
No, there's everyone,
Everyone?
everyone,
Oh, geez.
all the
Okay.
way around.
Okay, so that's the big expense of $12,000. Now, here's the interesting thing. This $12,000 is a fairly small sum of money. It could have been embedded in the budget and you would never have known about it, okay? But the select board, to their credit, said, we really want the people to talk about this. So they're putting it onto as an article of its own at town meeting. The town hall committee has very definite opinions and they will speak against it, I'm pretty sure. And so that's what's coming up though, is these panels. The question is, will it affect the aesthetics of our beautiful building? Will it be successful? We don't know. 12,000 bucks. Okay, that's the first one. The second one, Article 13, to see if we will spend another $100,000 into the paving trust fund. And that is not necessarily what gets actually spent in a given year because we have a reserve fund, which we keep adding to. It has more money in it than that. It's probably about 150,000 in it right now, and we'll be adding another 100 to it. But that gives us a cushion. So in some years we do more paving, some years we do less paving, but this provides a way to smooth it out over time. So that's a very important article. The next one is the Bridge Capital Reserve Fund to see if we will add $120,000 to this fund. The problem here is that we have now completed the Powers Road Bridge, which cost us $200,000. We have the East Road Bridge to come, and the cost on that is somewhere around estimated $275,000. So we have been gradually adding money as we go along. We just finished paying for the Powers Road Bridge, so that's why we're putting in a pretty good chunk this year of $120,000. And next year we'll have to, the plan is to actually do the work in 2027, as I recall. So in other words, next year we may be asking the town for another, gosh knows what, 100,000. We have to get the bridge builder in to give us a new estimate. In the meantime, you might take a ride across the Powers Road Bridge and see how you like the work, okay? The next one, the fire department skid unit. $27,825. A skid unit is something that they tell us that they have to have. I'm not going in order there. I'm going in order of the articles, the way they will appear at town meeting. So the skid unit is something that they absolutely must have, $27,825. They will sell the old one and that will go into the general fund. So the net cost will be a little bit less than that. Who knows what it will be, but anyway, this is something that has to be done. Next year, for example, they've got to have, I forget what they've got to have next year. I believe it's,
Jaws of life,
the what?
the jaws of life.
Yes, there you are. Okay. So in other words, the fire department has a steady set of things that they need, along with the highway department, which has a steady set of trucks, which we have to replace. The next one is a fund, a trust that we set up a couple of years ago because we realized that both the highway department and the fire department have expenses for maintenance, not replacing, but for maintenance and repair. And so if we had a trust fund for the two of them combined, it would be more efficient to do it that way. The chances are that they aren't both going to lose a transmission in a given year. So we're hoping that that's the way that works. Right now, we've got about 50,000 in that fund. We're trying to add another 10 to it and hope that that's going to be enough for some kind of major repair or maintenance or something or other. The next one, the police cruiser. We've all seen the new, what are those trucks that you the police department loves their new trucks and they look very nice. So the cost is $20,000, and which is pretty reasonable when you realize that they start out at $80,000 for one of these trucks. Now, how do we get it down to 20? There's a detail fund which is held for the police department by the town of Greenville. We own it as a share. 60% goes to Greenville, 20%, 40% to Temple. So we assign a certain amount of that fund in a given year to buying these new vehicles. Then what that amounts to is the rest of it, we pay our 40% share, which turns out to be $20,000, which to me seems pretty reasonable. Okay, so that's what that is. Now, the next one is a little bit more unusual and controversial because we're actually starting to have a new reserve account for recreation facilities. Now, the problem is that we have a problem with the tennis courts. As you all know, we have to maintain the site up there or else it goes back to the donor who gave it. So we don't want to do that. Last year, the town voted $24,000 for this repair.
No.
What?
It was,
24,000 last year.
yes, because we moved it, yes.
Yeah, okay. But that turned out to be not enough. So at the end of the year, we had the select board transfer that money into the reserved fund balance. And essentially they saved the money, they encumbered it. So to create this new fund, we were faced with the problem of how much are we going to need if we did it this year? And the answer seemed to be, we still don't have the proper estimates of what we think it will cost. So therefore, we should start a fund, and maybe not this coming 2026 year, but maybe by 2027, we will have a better estimate and we might have more money saved up. So right now, what this one says is that we will have an expendable trust fund to maintain the town recreation facilities and to raise and appropriate $34,000, of which 10 will come from taxation and 24 will come from that money that was saved at the end of last year. So the net cost is 10,000 going forward. Will this be enough for 2027? Your guess is as good as mine. Everybody's shaking their heads and saying, no, no, no. Well, we will have to figure that one out next year. So if you're interested in being on the CIP committee, these are the exciting topics that we talk about. And we would welcome your participation. Okay. Thank you very much. Are there any questions that anyone has? No questions. Speechless. Okay, great. Thank you.
If there are no other questions, I would make a motion to adjourn.
No, 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 no. We've got Jim Kingston there.
Oh, yes, well, he's the school, yes. We don't have an agenda for this meeting, so.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I'm the 2/3 of the budget guy, or at least the taxes guy. Yeah. Okay. So, I'll just go over the warrant and, what's out there. So the first one, which is really confusing, and I apologize for not having a presentation this evening. I kind of last minuted this. So, all right. So, so the first article is very confusing. In and of itself, it's not, but the kind of the whys and the wherefores are, right? And the first article is to designate the German program at Conval Regional High School as an open enrollment program. Now, what you think of open enrollment, I'll defer on that until next year after the legislature is done whatever the legislature is going to do. But and the 12-1 to recommend this, I was the one, right? And it's not so much that I didn't recommend this warrant article the way it was written, but I would recommend that you vote for it. Let's put it that way. So, background is that the Supreme Court made a ruling, and even they said it doesn't make any sense, but this is the way the legislature wrote the law, so I have to, this is the way we have to interpret it. if a neighboring school district votes to be open enrollment, even if you're not open enrollment, your kids can choose to go there and you're obligated to pay 80% of your per student cost to that neighboring district for taking that student. So someone else's vote places an obligation on you to pay their tuition. You know, not my circus, not my monkeys. This is the way it came down, right? This is the rules. So in order to protect yourselves financially from surrounding districts becoming open enrollment, your kid's going there and you paying 80% of our tuition cost, which is higher than theirs, for them to go there. We have to become open enrollment ourselves. Because if you're not an open enrollment school, you can't place limits on who can and can't leave. But if you become an open enrollment school, you're allowed to set limits. So what we've done is we've opened up a fairly attractive, a good German program for enrollment. You don't have to make the whole school open enrollment. You can do just a program. So we've made German an open enrollment program, set a limit on the number of kids that come in at 35 over the 4 years. And we've said none of our kids can leave the district and go elsewhere. Why? Because it costs us money if our kids leave the district and go elsewhere. Because we still have the same teachers to pay, the same buildings to maintain, and the tuition dollars are going out of district. So it's a financial consideration to vote yes. My vote no against this Warrant article was a moral consideration in that I don't think it's moral for me to say, it's okay for you guys to come here, but it's not okay for us to go there. I think it's kind of arrogant and, it's not cool, right? So that was my reason for voting against the way this Warrant article is written. But financially, I would say we almost have to vote for it in order to protect ourselves. I don't like it. So this is the old RSAs that are currently in place. The Supreme Court made this ruling, right, about somebody else's vote obligating you to pay. And at that point, everybody said, oh, they recognized the danger of that and said, oh, we're all going to become open enrollment. We're going to put these limitations on. And essentially, they're stifling the intent of the open enrollment law. But there are new open enrollment laws that are under consideration for this year that would just kind of open the doors completely. Okay, and we'll have to deal with that next year. Okay, the operating budget itself is up 1.4% roughly. So, which, on its surface sounds pretty good. And it is, because let me get to where we were here with the summary. Yeah. Staffing and benefits is 75% roughly of our budget. And staffing increases that we voted on last year with the teachers union contract amounted to about $1 million worth of increase, $986,000 worth of increase in the budget. We actually had a benefits decrease. Health services, the insurance only went up 3.4% for us. That was fantastic. But we also changed the plans that were available so that younger teachers could choose higher deductible, lower cost plans. And the Budget and Property Committee said, no, you're not going to budget a maximum amount that an open position, because we have a number of open positions, we're not going to budget the maximum amount of insurance that somebody that fills that position might take. We have a healthcare trust fund to take care of those kind of unexpected things. We don't need to do that twice. So we went down and we said, no, we're only going to budget for what the average teacher in this school does. So boom. So that was down almost $500,000 or a little over $500,000. Purchase services increased. Normal inflation. Purchase services is a lot of the special education services, physical therapy, speech therapy, those kinds of things. So that's up about $228,000. Did go down somewhat because we decreased our legal services. We're through the Conval lawsuit that went to the Supreme Court last year. They actually won. They got a bunch of money back, which goes into the return funds for this year. So that's good. Property services went up a lot, almost $750,000. And the reason for that is we've been treating our trust funds like revolving accounts. We're just putting money in, taking it out, putting money in, taking it out. That's a wrong way to use a trust fund. So we've said, no, we're going to put regular maintenance and even large ticket items that we can plan on and hopefully spread out over a number of years. Instead of doing all the boilers in one year, do a building every year or every other year. We can include it in the budget, still maintain that level spending, and avoid the crazy spikes. So we put about 1% of our budget into just the building maintenance line this year. There was a decrease in other purchase services, supplies and materials. Utility rates went down compared to when we last budgeted, right? Yeah, they're up a little bit this year, and we're seeing that in the budget realities of the town. But compared to where we were in the budget process, they've gone down. So we're about $20,000 less there, or no, $50,000 less there. We're not going through as many Chromebooks, so that's 20 grand less. Dues and fees went up a little bit. We don't have any outstanding debt, so that's a zero. Revenues did go down. We have fewer kids. We're going to get less adequacy aid from the state. Right? So, population continues to decrease. And then we have a number of special warrant articles, and I'll go through those when we hit those in the warrant. But the budget is essentially up 1.4%, as I said, which I think, considering we made a 1% increase in the amount we're spending on maintenance and getting rid of that, the crazy trust fund things. I think we did well keeping the budget capped at 1.4%. That doesn't mean the taxes are only going to go up 1.4%. Because remember, we gave back almost $5 million to the towns last year in surplus funds at the end of the year, which is why your taxes went down a little bit this year from the school perspective. And they'll go up. The total assessment will go up about 9%, is about what we think it's going to go for the schools. So that's really kind of an average it over 2 years. We're at that 4.5% range, which is still above inflation. It's not where I want it. But I think this year they did, a fairly good job of keeping things under control. So that is Article 2. Article 3 is to establish an open enrollment expendable trust fund. Under the RSA, we have to have a budget line item to account for paying out of district tuition when kids leave. We have no way of knowing how many kids are going to choose to leave on any year, one after the other. And because that's one of those unknowables at this point, the decision was made to establish a trust fund so that we don't run into a case of the crazy spikes, and we're able to kind of balance out over time the budget lines until we get a good feel for what that transfer in and out of the district might be under open enrollment. Yes, sir.
Gary,
Microphone.
When talking about the open enrollment, is that for one course, 5 courses, or is that a complete transfer from one school to the other?
It would be a transfer from one school to the other.
Okay. Is there a program to allow, for instance, you mentioned the German class, maybe another school does not have German, they want to send an individual for one class. Do we support that through Conval?
Not in the normal academic classes, but any of the CTE classes, the technical education
Yeah.
classes,
Right.
those, yes, you can go to Conval, to Messinic, to Jaffrey Ringe for just that one CTE class, and then back to your home school. Right. Open enrollment would be a different case where we're, paying that 80% for them to actually go attend that other school.
So that first warrant article that you were talking about, that if we vote and that passes to allow the open enrollment German class, you were saying that there were strings attached to that, and then the district would no longer allow our kids to leave the district? Did I understand that right?
Yeah, that's the way almost every district around here is doing it. That they're voting to be open enrollment, or it's on their warrants for this year, I'll say, right? Hasn't happened yet, but because of the Supreme Court ruling, all the surrounding districts are saying, we're gonna go open enrollment, but we're going to restrict it so that none of our kids can leave. And
So then if that warrant article passes, then we shouldn't need this trust fund because we effectively wouldn't let our kids leave.
yeah, we're only funding it with $1 because there's no cost to us this year, but we're establishing it in the event that the legislature does pass the full open enrollment, in which, in the current text would take effect in June of this year. And if they do pass that full open enrollment, then all these limitations are now out the door, and who knows what's going to happen. So we wanted to have a vessel to put money in should something happen. And if they don't, if they realize, oh, we can't, take the legs out of the school districts in June of 2026, and they move it to 2027, that gives us next year at meeting time in order to fund that trust fund. Okay. And I said we're trying to cut down the use of the trust funds as, revolving credit accounts, but we're not going to stop funding them. We see the need, and there's a lot of talk at this point, and I wouldn't want to put any ideas in anybody's head that something is going to happen or something's not going to happen. But we're looking at different ways of doing some sort of consolidation or rearrangement of students in order to, without touching the elementary schools, right? But still trying to reduce some of our building overhead get some consolidations. Maybe we can reduce staffing by doing that. And in order to do that, we really need to look carefully at what the condition of the existing buildings are, how much it's going to take to, keep them warm, dry, safe, right? Compared to the potential even of building something new, selling off a couple buildings, using those proceeds as well as trust funds to build something new. I don't know that that's going to happen. That I wouldn't even say that's a rumor that that's going to happen now, but it's just one of those things that needs to be looked at in the grand scheme of things to say what's the lowest life cycle cost to all of the taxpayers to get the education, that the kids need. So there are Article 4 is a building maintenance capital reserve fund balance for $500,000. Then there's an energy projects, energy and efficiency expendable trust fund for $25,000. That's to buy back the solar plant that we have over there as soon as it, reaches time to buy that back, and to do any new energy efficiency projects in the buildings that might come along. There's a capital reserve equipment expendable trust fund balance for $25,000. That we think that there's going to be a need for a new vehicle within the next year or two, and we want to make sure there's funds available for that. And then there's a second building maintenance capital reserve fund for $425,000. Why are there two of them? Because all those trust funds are funded out of the unreserved fund balance at the end of the year, and they're funded in order. So if there's not enough money to go, if we put $925,000 in the building and there wasn't enough money, then the energy expendables and the equipment funds wouldn't get anything, right? But by splitting the building into two pieces, we make sure there's enough money to put money in for those other trust funds. All right. Okay. The other article here is the article for withdrawal of Francistown. Same article as last year, right? Same kind of, and we'll do this until Francistown is successful. It's essentially what this is going to come down to. I have this is another one of those where there is going to be some financial hit to the town because of this. Anybody that tells you they know what it is lying to you. Francistown is donating about 1.7 million out of their 3.8 million that they contribute to the district. So they're getting 55 cents on the dollar for their donation to the district. They're a big donor town. I think that's wrong, It's especially wrong when 80% of their voters said, we want to leave. I don't think we have any right to keep them. That 1.7 million essentially comes out then, that donation that they're making, and divided, essentially we get about 1/14 of that. So a little over $100,000 would end up the responsibility of Temple to pick up if Conval continued to operate exactly the way it's doing it now and not accounting for the fact they're losing that money and doing cost reduction things to avoid those costs, right? And they should. I'll do what I can to make sure they do. But yeah, so in the end, it's another weird, convoluted, if Francistown votes in the affirmative that they want to leave, and everybody else votes in the affirmative, of course they leave. If they vote in the affirmative and the rest of the towns, not the rest of the towns, but the vote count is such that it's no, then they don't, unless they have a 3/5 majority, a 60% of their town votes, yes, we want to leave, which it will. Then over 60% of the rest of the vote would have to be negative in order for them to get the no. So it's the same thing as last year. And it's it's a super majority for or against, or a majority for or against, depending upon what Francistown does.
The problem is the assessment of home values essentially. We changed that. Why not take a look at changing it again to something more equitable and better representative of the needs of the communities?
I think that that's a great idea. I think we have to do something in our funding calculations in order to avoid, kind of the donor town kind of thing. I'm not sure there has been a change in the RSAs since we voted, and now it's like, I forget the exact language, but it's questionable whether it can be anything other than the 50-50 that we are at now. It could have, like if we had never changed it, we were grandfathered in the old way, the 60-40. But because we changed it to 50-50, we're now in alignment with the law. And I'm not sure that we could get out of it again. Yeah. 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 Okay. Article 9, accept reports of auditors. And then school board salaries. There was a motion at the deliberative session to increase the salaries of the school board members by $500. So we go from $1,000 to $1,500 a year. I'm not going to tell you on that one. I will tell you that it is a lot of work. Okay. And then the last article is there are a number of school board members that are coming up for a vote this year. Not me this time, next time.
Microphone. Sorry. It's off. I don't know why we just can't leave that thing on and pass.
Hi. Jim, was it Dick Dunning that suggested that?
Yes, it was.
And he did a very heartfelt
Yeah.
for that there's lots of work that these guys put in and it has never changed. Is that what he said too?
I guess it's been a while.
Yeah.
I don't know. It is what it was when I got there. So, which has only been 2 years.
Just
Okay. And that's that. Any other questions on, yes?
Thank you, Jim. Are the Peterborough schools on public water and sewer?
I bet Peterborough Elementary is.
Did you see the restructuring Peterborough just did for the water and sewer? And how is that going to affect our budget?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I don't know the answer to that. Yeah.
That's going to be ugly.
Yeah.
Another question. We've been hearing about and seeing decreasing enrollment for years now. Are we also decreasing staff?
Somewhat. Yeah. We're doing things like you will find that you have a lot of combined grades in Temple Elementary School right now. And that's happening at most of the smaller elementary schools. And so there is some consolidation there. I'm not seeing as much at the middle and high school level, and that's just because of course offerings, right? It's not everybody's in a grade and we need a first grade teacher. You need X number of math teachers. So you're dividing up grades and then you're dividing up into different classes and courses that are being taught. So the number of kids in any class isn't going down enough to say, oh, we're going to get rid of that.
How about
So it's
administration?
really, yeah. And my suggestion would be we need to get rid of a few offerings, right? But
What about administration, though? That's where a big cost is.
administration is a big cost. And I think that if Francistown does leave, that's both a risk and an opportunity to look at, to force a good, hard look at what we're doing administratively, right? The other thing that has been kind of one of my kind of concerns about our school is the number of special education children in the school. The percentage of kids that are special education continues to go up. Right? The new assistant superintendent does have a focus on that and doing things to eliminate getting kids into the special education program. So she's saying the right words. Whether she can make that happen or not in our structure is another question. But the human condition is very much on a normal distribution. It's the classic bell curve. And I think anybody within, one standard deviation, for those that know statistics, one standard deviation of the middle isn't special, right? And half the kids that are more than a standard deviation are on the top end and don't need special. So you're left over when you do the math, you should have about 16% of the kids at most that are in special education. We're at 24. Right.
And what percentage of our budget do they take?
It's a lot. Yeah. Yeah. I think a number that was reported was the average cost per special education student. And there are some real outliers that throw these values, right? So it's not like the kid with an IEP costs this much necessarily, but the average cost for a special education student in Conval is about $55,000. So yeah, it's high.
Thank you.
Okay.
Not a question. For anyone that missed Francistown's presentation the other night, Laura Mafera did say if anyone wants the slides, she'll be happy to provide those slides so folks can look over them. So whether or not that will get distributed, I'm assuming.
And that was your opportunity to come here to the town hall and listen to them. But I think they are doing kind of the road show at other towns. So keep an eye on what they're doing at Dublin and And there is a public forum that will go over, I'm sure, in excruciating details of things that I talked about. And that is
Microphone.
next week.
Anybody else for anything else? I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all those in favor? Aye. Good night, everyone. Thank you.